Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Teamwork a Better Way. I am Christian Napier, and I am joined by my amazing, incredible co-host Spencer Horn. Spencer, how you doing?
Wonderful, amazing, and only so because you make me such. I mean, just being on stage with you makes me shine, and so I wish I could do the same for you.
Oh, come on. Let's just crank up the volume on this Mutual Admiration Society to 11. This week is a special week here
Yeah.
in our neck of the woods because it's Thanksgiving, and I'm extremely grateful to have known you for more than 20 years. And we've been doing this podcast for over 5 years. Can you believe it? It'll be
Almost 6. It'll
years.
be 6.
Yeah, it'll be 6 years early next year. I mean, I can't believe how the time has flown. So super grateful for you and for the impact that you've had on my life, and
Oh,
for all the things that you've taught me over these last 6 years. I've learned so much, getting to hear your insights that you share with me on a regular basis on this podcast and in other forums. And
making me
we've got
blush.
yet another opportunity for both of us to learn again today.
Yeah.
We've got a super amazing guest on this very special week for us here. Spencer, why don't you go ahead and do the honors of introducing?
Absolutely. So today we have Christian Thiele, and I'm so excited to introduce our listeners who's coming to us from southern Germany. We'll talk about that in just a second. But Christian, he and I met. This is going to be confusing for me. I'm going to call it Christian and Christian, right?
You can
So,
you can also just call me Chris. That's just
Chris. So I met Chris in Bali just a little over a year ago. We were there at a Global Speaker Federation event, and I got to meet him there. And then we were able to speak in Bulgaria together. He was the closing keynote speaker, and I was the opening keynote speaker. And so I had a chance to meet him, and just an incredible individual. Just so you know more about him, let me share some of his bona fides that make him so special. He's a leading expert in positive leadership and positive psychology. Really, he's dedicated to helping leaders and teams work together more successfully, efficiently, creatively, and meaningfully, which is perfect for our show. And he's been a coach and a trainer and internationally recognized keynote speaker, as I recognized. And he specializes in transforming workplace cultures through evidence-based positive leadership approaches, and his work is grounded in Martin Seligman's PERMA model of positive psychology and Kim Cameron's positive leadership framework. Now, I've had him share that with me, and I'm excited for him to share that with you and our listeners today, Christian. And he discovered this in 2015 when he called this a true waking experience, not experiment. But it's been an experiment since then, I'm sure, and I can't wait to hear the results of that experiment. But this awakening fundamentally changed his understanding of effective leadership. And his background, goodness, he has a unique blend of academia. He has political sciences, completed a master's degree in positive psychology and coaching, and he's been a site director and lecturer at Germany's first master program in positive psychology at the German University of Health and Sport, which, Christian, I know that's going to perk up your ears because you are a huge sports man. And he is really taking this cutting edge research and applying it to real world applications. He's written many books. I just want to read these books in German for you. Claimed books including Positiv Führen for Dummies, positive leadership for dummies, Praxisbuch, positive leadership, practical guide to positive leadership, and Stärken erkennen und nutzen, recognizing and utilizing strengths. And he's got a monthly podcast, Positiv Führen, again, positive leadership, which reaches thousands of leaders who want help and advice. So we're so glad to have him. Oh my gosh, I could go on. There's more. But one of the things I'm really excited about, he's coming to us from Garmisch-Partenkirchen in the German Alps. So if you're listening, you know that part of the world. If you're in the United States, I did some research. I looked at it, and it reminds me of Breckenridge or Park City. So he kind of lives in that beautiful place of the world. Christian, welcome to our show today. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you so much, Spencer. Thank you so much, Christian. So first of all, you don't need to do this. There's nothing you can learn from me because you know it all. I mean, the way you introduced each other, the way transmitted so much energy and so much warmth and so much fun. So anyway, I'm really glad to
Chris,
be here. Thank you so much.
I can't wait for you to
meet
me,
and this will be a fun moment.
I can't wait for you to meet Christian, because everybody I talk to, I'm so excited for them to meet, because he's just so brilliant. But, well, let's start off with you. You said you had this awakening back in 2015. Now, I've heard your story because I've heard you speak. I want you to share, if you don't mind, to our listeners, what happened? What was the transition that caused you to embrace this idea of positive leadership and positive psychology?
Well, actually, I think it was the day before Christmas. Actually, it was on the day before Christmas at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I downloaded Practicing Positive Leadership from Kim Cameron onto my Kindle. And so I still know this very hour because it's in my, in my Amazon history. And this really changed my life because I felt that what Kim Cameron wrote and put down there was somehow the answer to well, first of all, the questions I had to leadership, and well, it helped me actually preventing people from becoming the leader that I used to be when I was a leader in the media industry, which has a well, pretty strong negativity bias by default. And so I'm trying to help leaders to become a very different leader from the one I was when being deputy editor or editor-in-chief of different magazines and news outlets.
So you talk about this. It's so interesting. News outlets do have a negativity bias because that actually plays to our human negativity bias. We're actually designed to believe bad news before good news. And I think the news outlets know that about us and they use that against us. I'm just curious how that actually because we talk so much about how climate and environment it affects us. How did that affect you? And how did you get out of that?
Well, first of all, I have to say that I come from a doctor's dynasty. My father was a doctor. My grandfather was a doctor. My great-grandfather was a doctor. And, you know, when you go to a doctor's cabinet, they never ask you, so what's going well? Because they're always asking, so what's wrong? So what is there to fix? So I started out with that. And then you have this negativity bias, as you said, Spencer, in the media industry, very dominant. If it bleeds, it leads. I mean, usually the headlines don't read like everybody loves each other in Washington, all things going well with climate. It's all about conflict. It's all about catastrophe. It's all about deficits. And I think that this has a very strong impact on the culture, on the leadership culture, on the way of how people work together, or rather next to each other, or even against each other in the media industry. Because you never hear, wow, this was a great article. Wow, I admire how you did research and got this guy to talk or this lady to talk. It's always about, oh, I missed this. Oh, this would have been nice to include in the first paragraph. And that's how all the development dialogues, how they were called, were held. You need to work on this. You need to get better at this. And I don't want to. I mean, obviously, we have to look at our deficits, and we if we want to become really excellent, we have to identify the things we should be getting better at. But we also have to know about our strengths, about the positive qualities that make us and others shine. And that's basically a very fundamental element of what I'm trying to deliver. Yeah, and do.
All right. So I have to go back to the 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Christmas Eve in
Yeah,
2015.
yeah.
And you know it because you looked at your Amazon order history. You ordered this book, but I'm curious, what was your motivation for ordering it? Like, okay, what prompted you to, or were you actively looking for this, or did it just pop up serendipitously? And the algorithm said, "Hey, you might be interested in this book." What was the motivating factor behind actually seeking out and or purchasing the book?
I think, Christian, serendipity is just such a great word to describe this. I was on the lookout for something. I was missing something. I was looking for something which I didn't know what it was, and there comes this book onto my Kindle where Kim Cameron talks about the heliotropic principle, meaning simply that plans are basically bowing towards the light. I mean, all human life or all life on Earth is somehow directed to sources of energy. And if we work in organizations or in teams, you always have these people that are just fun to be with, that just give you so much more energy when you've had a meeting with them, and that just make you want to work with them or under them or together with them. And then there's sometimes, I mean, I've had these experiences, and there's also these black holes, these people where you, after 45 minutes, you feel it has been 2 days actually, where you just feel drained, and where you just have a very, very acute awareness of all the problems, of all the difficulties, of all the things that have gone wrong, are going wrong, could be wrong, but you have no clue to what to do about this. And then you try to find somebody who is one of these positive energizers, as Kim Cameron put it. Yeah, and this somehow was an answer to a question I actually didn't know that I had put, but somehow it really deeply resonated with me. Yeah.
So, I mean, I remember you talking about and when I met you, and just now you were talking about how often the conversation was focused on critique, was focused on shortcomings, what they didn't do, what are the problems, and certain personalities and I know a little bit about your personality and some similarities to mine. Some of us are naturally bent towards the downside, the challenge, the risk. We see the negative first more easily than others. So I'm interested what the cumulative effect of that, and it sounds like it had something happening, and you were like, you just weren't satisfied because that environment was constantly creating a cost, and even if it was not conscious, you were feeling it.
Yes, well, let me just explain what changed when I had discovered this source of energy. I would describe it. I think I had, well, actually until March 2020, when the lockdown started, many people in HR or leadership development, who are usually the folks who book me for coachings, for keynotes, for I don't know, trainings, they said, well, this is interesting, but we should call it differently, because positive leadership is somehow Pollyannish and a bit sweet, and everybody has to love each other,
especially if you're in Germany, right?
Especially if you're in Germany, exactly. We're really good at,
where's the science? Where's the hard stuff?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, we have collected more and more data on this positive leadership thing. How I call it, how a couple of colleagues call it. That, for example, leaders who score high, we have this measure where you can measure positive leadership in 5 dimensions. And in teams where you have positive leaders, people say more likely will be more likely saying, I feel part of a team. I have more optimism about this change process that we're going to. I have less burnout symptoms. My customers are happier. I'm selling more broadband lines. That's a huge study that has been done in British Telecom. People have less sick days. People are have higher retention rates, higher organizational loyalty when their leaders score higher on these positive leadership scales. So it does make quite a difference, especially in a time of so many in times of so many disruptions and change and uncertainty.
I knew he was going to play it. And that was an excellent thought to emphasize. You mentioned the word Pollyannish. I think that's really interesting because there may be a perception among some leaders who might even be inherently positive that being positive in some ways may inadvertently negatively impact their own credibility, right? So it's like, oh, I can't be too positive because
got to be a serious leader.
I got to be a serious leader, and I got to make sure all the facts are on my side, and I need to be pragmatic, and I need to be realistic. And so, what do you say to people who think, oh yeah, positive is great, but really what we need someone who's really pragmatic and practical and is not the Pollyannish pie in the sky visionary?
Yeah, I'm all in. First of all, then I mean, positive leadership is somehow a quite generic team. I've never met somebody who says I'm a negative leader. I've done 17 seminars in negative leadership. I've done the black belt in negative leadership, and that's why I've been promoted as CEO. So everybody wants to see herself or himself as a positive leader, actually. But what this means would have to be defined, and I would define it as a leadership behavior that positively impacts employees' PERMA. So, Scott, Spencer, you mentioned Marty Seligman, the world's most renowned depression researcher, until he became president of the American Psychological Association in the late 90s. And he said, well, we've done enough, or we've done quite a lot about negative or classic psychology. We know about deficits, about we've invented.
It was always focusing on pathology. What's wrong?
Always focusing on fixing what's wrong. But what about strengthening what's strong? And this is the PERMA lead or the PERMA model he has come up with. So I would say that a positive leader, in my sense, is somebody who nourishes the PERMA of the people he or she is leading, but that also means having a good look at challenges, at things that do go wrong, and not ignoring all the challenges and all the mistakes and all the bummers. Yeah.
So describe that PERMA model. What is that? What does PERMA stand for those of us who haven't heard that before?
Yeah, so P stands for, so it's obviously five letters, and these 5 letters stand for 5 recipes, for 5 strategies, for 5 evidence-based dimensions of leadership that are known to be helpful. So the P stands for positive emotions. is there something like negative emotions? Well, all emotions like shame or guilt or fear are helpful, are data that can help us navigate through life. But positive emotions are usually the ones that we want to have more of, like fun, like calm, like serenity, like joy, like awe. And a positive leader is somebody who in troubling times gives you some kind of hopefulness and gives you some kind of connection, fosters interest, fosters calmness in times of turmoil. So that's for the P. Shall I go on, or do you
No,
want to?
so let me interrupt you for a second. So because it's not only Martin Seligman, but people like Daniel Goleman, John Gottman, they're all on this positivity train. So for those of you listening, think about the model, and I've shared this model before. What is the purpose of a team, Christian? I mean, why do teams exist? It's to get stuff done, right? To be productive, whether that's for a profit agency where you're creating profitability, or a nonprofit where you're providing services to the community, or a government where you are basically providing, again, some type of service for your nation or your community. But the purpose of a team is to be productive, right? However you define that productivity. So then you add this element of, whether you're low or high productive, or whether you have low or high positivity. Think about just the dynamics of just being productive with low positive environment. You talked about burnout, right? You talked about turnover. That's when that happens, is when there's we're a meritocracy. We just, it's all about the bottom line here. It's not sustainable. But then if you take it the other way and say, well, it's all positive but not productive, well, that's not sustainable either, right? You still have to get things done. But then the low, we're out of business very, very quickly. So the key that we're looking for here is not only high positivity, but high productivity. So what is it that gets us to that? But how do you sustain it? And here's where I want to add something to Martin Seligman. This is where John Gottman's research of over 30 years, he said the most sustainable relationships, and it was studied in personal relationships, but there are a lot of relationships that go on at work, right? You talked about the leaders having a positive impact on those that they work. You have to have 5 positive to every 1 negative interaction. So if I'm giving you a critique, that's fine, and you pointed that out, right? We do need that data and that feedback. But are you giving 5 negative to 1 positive? Well, then that leads to depression, and I can't get anything right, and it deflates the confidence of those you're working with. Are we backing up the negative interaction with gratitude, with appreciation, with, hey, here's an opportunity for you, here's a challenge, I invite you? Those types of interactions that strengthen the relationship so that they continue to want to give their discretionary effort. That's what we're talking about when we talk about positive emotions. It's all about creating that environment so that people will grind and work and hustle to get the most done.
Yes, and let me just throw in 2 more names. One is Barbara Fredrickson. She has done this amazing work on the use and the effect of positive emotions. So positive emotions like joy, like serenity, like calm, like awe, like feeling connected, they broaden and build. That's her theory. They broaden our horizon. They enlarge our repertoire of actions, of communicative styles, and they also help us undo the negativity that is just part of everyday life.
I love that.
The second name I want to throw in is Dan Tomasulu, who has written a great book on learned hopefulness. And he has this wonderful image of negative emotions being the pebbles and positive emotions being the feathers. So yes, you can outweigh anger or fear with joy and with serenity. But you need quite a lot of them. You need quite a lot of feathers to outweigh a couple of pebbles, and then the wind blows, just a gush of wind, and all the positive is away again. So I like this image quite a lot, and yeah, so that's the P in PERMA.
That's interesting. Learned hopefulness versus Martin Seligman's learned helplessness.
Yes. That's the idea. That's the idea, that hope is not just something we have or don't have. It's something that we can cultivate, at least to a certain extent.
I've got a question for you. A few moments ago, you were talking about, I think it was Kim Cameron's research and this heliocentric principle, which is really, if I recall correctly, it's like a biology-based thing, right? Photosynthesis,
Yeah.
plants, they orient themselves to the sun.
Phototropism.
Yeah, right. They orient themselves to the sun. And so, leaders who are positive and joyous, they have a natural gravitational pull, right? Like people want to be around them. My question for you is, where do the leaders get the energy from, right? It's like, sometimes you can be in a very difficult, stressful situation, and you might just feel like your fuel is spent. Like if we think of the sun as a fusion reaction, right? That is taking fuel, and it is taking these two elements and then combining them to form another heavier element and releasing a lot of energy. Where do you recommend that leaders draw energy from so that they can continue to be this like heliocentric force that naturally draws followers to them?
You still got to hang around Christian. That's all you got to do.
This is a great question, and I'm not really sure whether I have a 2-sentence answer to this. I would suppose obviously it has to do maybe with your upbringing. Maybe it has to do with the purpose you see in the job you do. But then again, I would also see this energy, this relational energy that the great leaders have, as something co-creative. It's an upward spiral. If I even in troubling, or especially in troubling times, if I make my folks feel somehow relevant, seen, that they matter, I think they're giving something back to me, which I can give back to them. So I think it's we're all social creatures, obviously. So I wouldn't think, and I wouldn't want to think, that it's something that is inherently inside the positive leader's soul. It's something that they maybe also co-create with the community they're serving in on a Sunday, or which they're getting from their pastor on Sunday at church, or whatever that might be, or from climbing in the mountains, or from playing in the band, or from reading or writing poems, or from having overcome hardship in childhood. I think there's so many possible sources of this positive relational energy. What do you think, guys?
100%. I mean, I feel it, Chris, when I have done something and it just comes back. And this is going to sound really cheesy. When you were talking, it reminded me of, I just watched this first holiday show, Christmas show last night, called Klaus. It's a cartoon. Have you seen it, Christian? It's this country where they have this postal service, and one of the sons is super lazy, and his father, like, I need to teach him a lesson. So they send him way up into the north somewhere to this terrible town where everybody's negative, and it's just sucking the life out of him. And he's like, I've got to deliver 6,000 letters so I can get off this awful island. And anyway, he turns into this experience where he's helping these people change. They're fighting. It's like the Hadfield and McCoy's. These two families are just fighting, and it's a terrible environment. But he puts into this energy, and accidentally, all of this change starts happening, and all of a sudden it goes from gray and dull to the sunny. I mean, it's real. I know it's a cartoon, but it's such a metaphor for what happens when you give energy, and it comes back multifold in so many ways, in ways that are not even expected. And I think that that's a great source for energy, is you give it, and then it comes back. Christian, what do you think? Napier.
I'm like, okay, which of us? Yeah, I'm a believer in these virtuous cycles, right? Like, and it can be one spark that kind of sets off a chain reaction that builds on itself, or not, right? It can be a spark and then it putters out. And so one of the things that has been kind of on my mind is like, how do you keep it going?
The butterfly theory.
Because sometimes old habits die hard, as they say, and so you might think, okay, I need to make some changes. I need to foster more positivity. I need to work on not escalating conflict, and instead of an eye for an eye, I need to focus more on learning and forgiveness, those kind of things. But it can be easy to kind of fall into old ways of doing things,
especially under pressure and under stress,
and that spark dies. And so I'm really curious, Christian, to hear your perspective on this, and like, how do you keep that reaction sustainable? Because so many things, it's like, oh yeah, let's do this, and we get excited about it, and then life happens and our enthusiasm wanes, and ultimately nothing changes in the end. And so, how do you keep that virtuous cycle going, and keep from succumbing to, we said this in a previous podcast, so I'm kind of mixing the metaphors here, but entropy, just kind of like, we just kind of settle. Yeah. What's your take?
Well, first of all, I always say I'm so glad that I don't introduce like OKRs in companies, because that's something, it's going to be great in 3 years, but the next 2.5 years are just going to be shitty. PERMA, you start where you start, and nobody hasn't done anything yet in their lives to nourish other people's PERMA. We constantly do this, maybe inadvertently, maybe without knowing. So if you just go through these 10 positive emotions that Barbara Fredrickson says are the most common or the most relevant, like awe, interest, amusement, serenity. She calls it love 2.0, or just the feeling of being connected to each other, lightness, humor, and so on. I think it's damn difficult to find this and to nourish this in trying times. And then again, I would say it's so easy to find this in the small things, and maybe to ask your folks on Monday morning in the Zoom call where they come together. So we can talk about all the shitty clients. We can talk all about the lunatic deadlines that the clients have given us. But let's just start with 3 good things. Anybody who wants to share something from last week, being it the girls' soccer win on the weekend, being it the barbecue, being it that grandmother just finally got on her feet again after her cancer treatment, or whatever that may be, or the holiday, or the new Netflix show I want to share with you because it's so hilarious. If we do something like this creates so many things like lightness, connection, hopefulness, and so on. So it's no rocket science, actually, I would say.
let's keep
or
moving
playing
down
some
the
salsa music, or playing some salsa music every now and then.
yeah, exactly. We need that every once in a while. So
Yes.
we haven't gotten to E yet. So talk about the E on the PERMA model.
E is like engagement or energy. So, and for me, it has like two dimensions. So, what am I doing, or how am I helping my folks to get into these flow moments? You know, where they can engage in what they're doing, where they can really be in the zone, where they can have at least moments of uninterrupted work, and where they have some kind of autonomy. So that's one part. And the other part of E, like engagement or also energy, is, do I see my folks' strengths? Do I, as a leader, delegate stuff according to people's strengths? Do I foster um, my employees' awareness of what they're really good at and what is giving them energy, and are there ideas to to make their strengths even more relevant for the client, for the team, and so on.
Yeah, it sounds to me like, one way to describe that's alignment, right? Like, okay, here's a person, and here are things that need to be done, and I should try to align responsibilities with things that drive and motivate them. I think sometimes there can be a little bit of a misconception, though, that, oh, I need to take what needs to be done and align it with this person's strengths. And I think that's good. But sometimes we could inadvertently limit their growth, by just saying, hey, I'm going to give you the stuff that you're good at doing all the time. Is there a way to, looking at the PERMA model, really drive engagement by, aligning with strengths, but also giving people opportunities to do things that are hard?
A
I mean,
stretch.
Spencer
Yes.
talks about this all the time. Um, uh, focus on something that maybe you're not really great at, but you have a desire to be better at. What is your thought when it comes to the E in PERMA and engagement, and giving people some challenging things to do as well?
Yes, thank you for the question. It's a really important one. First of all, strengths are not only the things that I'm good at. Strengths, in my definition, and that's not mine, but the one or one that I really hold dear and like a lot, are positive qualities when it comes to our behaviors, our feelings, and our thinking. So strengths related to or emotional strengths could be like humility or hopefulness. Strengths related to our way of acting could be precision or zest. Qualities that relate to our thinking could be creativity or or maybe also precision. So it's not only he's good at Excel or PowerPoint. That's his strengths. Second thought: it's not about giving people milk and honey from Monday through Sunday. This is not what I'm talking about. It's giving the people and feeling for myself that I can every now and then do the things I'm really good at, that give me energy, that I'm really performing well. And third thought, yes, that's Christian. What you just said is exactly the flow diagram by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. So if you think of these are the demands of some kind of task or in a project, and these are my resources or my level of competence. So if the demands are really high and the perceived competences are really really low, yeah, I'm in the panic zone, and I'm just overwhelmed. And if the capabilities are really high and the demands of the situation are really really low, I'm just bored, and I'm just bored out. And if I reach this flow channel, as Mihai Csikszentmihalyi calls it, that means that according to my level of skill, according to my level of experience, I'm always challenged, and I feel this thrill of engaging and progressing in a task that I find meaningful and that is challenging, but that I have the feeling that I can somehow handle it.
Yeah, I love that. And there's something else that I think really comes out when you talk about this, Christian, is that you have to, as part of positive leadership, you have to know your people well enough to know what those strengths are. You have to be paying attention as a leader to your people so that you can bring those out of them, right? And because sometimes there's a way, if you struggle with a leader to do that, there's an exercise called job crafting. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's a way for your employees to actually craft their own ideal, what I could be doing with my strengths, and sometimes giving them the space to do that, if you trust them to create their own kind of job description, if you will, so that they can take advantage of their strengths, can be actually very empowering. It can be very scary for a leader to give that a level of freedom, but it can be very rewarding. So I love that. Okay, we've gotten to E. Now what's the R?
R is like relationships, or vitamin R. So how do I, as a leader, make the followers feel part of a team? How do I create psychological safety? Amy Edmondson, the Harvard researcher, who has found this term for a culture where I can talk about doubts, I can talk about mistakes, I can talk about things that didn't go well without fearing that my career or my reputation is on the line. I talked to leaders from a German car company, and they told me, well, our projects always have a status watermelon. Do you know what that is?
Status watermelon.
Status watermelon.
No.
Green on the outside, deeply red on the inside.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
perfect.
we're on time. We're on budget. This
That's
is going
perfect.
well.
I'm going to remember
problem.
that.
And then later on at the coffee break, everybody says, no way this is going to work. This process is shitty. This software is just shitty. But I'm not going to tell it to the boss. So if you create a climate where there's psychological safety, there is trust, there is openness, and there's no reporting of status watermelon.
I'm going to remember that, right, Christian?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, we need a different fruit then, right? What's a fruit that's green on the inside? I'm trying to think. Maybe a tomatillo. It's green on the outside and a green on the inside. Okay, that was great. What about the M in PERMA?
And just let me add one little thing. I mean, this climate of psychological safety means also, or would also be an answer to the criticism that positive leadership is just about, the funny, sugary, Pollyannish stuff.
100%.
No, it's also about calling a spade a spade.
We talked
and
about on
connected about this.
On our Friday episode, we actually talked about this, where there are, for example, there was a study done at a hospital where the reporting when there was psychological safety, the reporting of negative incidents went up. So the challenges were more transparent, and you think, well, we want them to go down. Well, they don't go down if they're not reported. So we got to actually start learning from, and this kind of goes along with what I believe. And so we're on the exact same page. Sometimes you do need to be able to talk about what's not working, but it's the positive environment that actually allows that to happen instead of fear and concern and worried about myself. I'm worried about the team and how to help them. And that's where relationships and engagement actually improve productivity and the bottom line results. And so such a great point.
Yeah, so let's get to M. So the M stands for meaning or for mattering. How do I, as a when we talk about leadership, so how do I, as a leader, create and convey the feeling of this has some kind of meaning, what we're doing. This is part of something larger and bigger. This has some kind of impact for the client, for maybe even the world. We move from building A to B because in the end, this is going to be helpful for this or that. We're introducing this process because in the end, this will help the folks from accounting or from whatever marketing to do this or that better. And when you ask people, would you exchange your current job for a job that is more meaningful, 9 out of 10 would say yes. And we even, a colleague of mine, Sean Aker, did a huge study on this. I think it was like 55,000 people of all levels of income and all levels of education. And they even put a price tag on this psychological income. So how much money of how much lifetime earnings would I be willing to let go if I had a meaningful job? And they came up with 23%. That's way more than the average mortgage the American household has. So we don't do our job only for the rent or for the loan. We also want to matter. We want to make an impact. We want to have the feeling that this is relevant, that this is something I can be proud of, that my kids at home can explain during lunch break what their dad or their mom is doing and why this is beneficial to the community or the customers or whatever.
You know, that's one of the things that I talk about. There's a few things that cause people to love their job. And the number one thing is that they know that what they're doing is having an impact somehow in a positive way, and that they know that, and they're told that you're making a difference, that they matter, and that is something that's so powerful. I'm super interested in that study. I'll have to listen to this again and make sure I get it all because I want to find that study, because I think that's
I can put all the links here on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that would be terrific. Because
sure.
that is when we talk about somebody loving their job, not that you pay them enough so they won't quit. It's that if you paid them less, that they would stay. Because not that we would do that on purpose, but we want to pay people what they're worth and what they value, but they're there for more than just the paycheck. And I think that's really important. So, all right. What questions do you have?
Well, we've got one letter left, but before we get to that letter, I'm talking about meaning and impact.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I really like the frame that you use there. Like, hey, how is what I'm doing? How can that make a difference or help the accounting folks or the marketing team or whatever, or our customers? That's fine. And yet, oftentimes in our day-to-day work, when we're looking at our processes, we look at them very myopically. Like and we're in our silo, and those folks are in their silos, and we get angry when people in the other silos aren't doing things that help us in our silos. So it's kind of weird. Like on the one hand, we derive impact on how we're helping others, but oftentimes in the day to day, we become myopic in our view, and we're looking at how other people are impacting us. And so I'm curious to hear from your perspective how we connect to the big picture and maintain that focus, and reduce the myopic focus where we're just looking inward all the time.
Yeah.
No more myopia.
No more myopia. Starting tomorrow at 8:30. So. So first of all, when you ask leaders and employees about job happiness and job satisfaction, usually leaders score higher. And obviously it's because of pay, because of that corner office, because of this car. But it's
and
also
control,
because
that they control more of their destiny.
Yes, it's because of control, and it's because they're a bit higher on the ladder, and they are more able to see why this is important, what we are doing here for the folks in accounting, why this process needs to be changed, abandoned, introduced for the sake of the customer. And Christian, I think you're very right in pointing out that this is a very relevant question for the working together of different, I don't know, compartments or departments or whatever, factories maybe in a company. So I mean, it would be just great to hear them out, to send the folks from accounting to sales every now and then, or to have the people from development who never see a customer in real life to have them go on a tour to see customers, what they love about our products, or what features they would love to see. And one of the most relevant things to create more meaning, I would say, is to ask people, maybe at the end of the year, this could be a good moment, or at the end of a project. So what are the most meaningless things we're doing here? What are the processes, the tools we're using you find most shitty? And then I would have at least two possible answers. One will be, okay, so I think you're not yet getting why this is so important. So I would have to do a better job in explaining to you why this is really relevant. Or maybe there could be things that we could just get rid of because this channel, this tool just doesn't fill the requirements for a successful and smooth collaboration anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's hard to do, to drop things that we throw good. I think that's a skill that managers need to learn, is to, what can I get rid of? What can I take off my plate? What can I get out of the backlog that's not serving us? And learning how to do that is super valuable skill. Okay, so the A, we're at the end of the PERMA model. What does the A stand for?
The A stands for applause or achievement, or actually it's accomplishment. And I always like to say it's focusing more on the ta-das and not just on the to-dos. And Christian, we've been talking about different aspects of an organization. You always have the people in sales, for example, who get their numbers every Friday, who know about their impact, who can tell you in a bit how successful they have been. And then there's the people in IT, for example, who never get called, well, thank you, Gus. My email worked again this morning. And so I think so I think one job of leadership in this sense would be to make those shadow performance visible, and especially folks who are working in very complex long-term projects, to make them feel the ta-das and not only the to-dos.
I love it. We've gone almost 55 minutes, which is just crazy to me. This conversation has flown by. And Spencer, I know we need to get to your lightning round of questions.
We don't have to. I know you got something on your mind. I know you work.
No. I want to get to the lightning round. I want to get to the lightning round. This has been a really, really great conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
Well, I one of the things that I love that I will always remember when I heard Christian speak was this idea of ta-das versus the to-dos. We spend all our time, and there are some people who think, well, we get paid for the to-dos, and so that's enough applause. No, and learning how to give people applause in the way that they want to have it. Some people like that public, some people like that one-on-one. Some people, it's going to be different for everybody. So again, that goes back to a positive leader knows what their people need in terms of applause. So I think that's
He asks them. I mean, this is already
just ask them. How do you like
and caring?
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the easiest way. So, all right, are you ready for lightning round questions?
I am.
All right, here we go. One word that describes positive leadership.
Energy.
Excellent. Biggest misconception about happiness at work?
Shallow.
What brings you joy in your work?
Meaning, connection, espresso.
Exactly. A book you recommend to every leader?
There's actually two. Kim Cameron, Practicing Positive Leadership, 2012, and Markus Ebner. He's an economic psychologist and organizational psychologist from Vienna, and who has developed this PERMA lead model. I will put this in the show notes.
EIBNER, Ebner?
Yes.
Okay.
He's so good at languages.
Thank you. Most underrated leadership habit?
Focusing on ta-das instead of only handing out to-dos like candy.
For some, that's harder for sure than others. Optimism, skill or trait?
Optimist and pessimist meet on the street. Optimist says we actually live longer than you live, and the pessimist says, rightly so.
Favorite positive psychology principle?
Connection, co-creation, togetherness.
What's one thing
in all ways? Weak ties, strong ties. I feel so connected to you now over this cable under the ocean, we are 1,000 miles and I think 7 hours away. So it's not only our neighbors, our community members.
So true.
The strong power of the weak ties.
Yes. What's one thing leaders can do today to build more trust?
Talk about your doubts. Talk about your fears. Talk about what you fucked up.
Be vulnerable.
In a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best advice you received on leadership?
It's allowed to have fun.
Allowed to have fun. One more. Complete this sentence, Christian. Great teams thrive when leaders
find a good balance of being with them, next to them, and behind them. And sometimes above them and in front of them.
Well, that is a great way to kind of cap off our hour of conversation today, Christian. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your ideas and your thoughts and your methods with us and our viewers and listeners today. If they want to reach out and connect with you over, through cables that go under the ocean or other means, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn it is. And Spencer, you've been helping teams become high performing for decades. What's the best way for
Same.
folks
Just
to
say
connect
hi to
with
us
you?
on LinkedIn. Shout us out. And Christian, man, don't you think he's great, Mr. Thiele? He's so fantastic. And so I know people need to reach out to you, Christian. How do they find you?
Well, just 3 for 3 LinkedIn. Do the
Yes.
LinkedIn dance here. Okay, so yes, please connect to us on LinkedIn, and please like and subscribe to our podcast. We're so grateful for you for spending an hour with us today, and we'll catch you again soon.